The Spurs go down hard in the Big Easy, setting up a first-round playoff series with Golden State.
We knew it was going to be tough because, well, the Spurs are in New Orleans. And at the end of the day, it was. The Spurs controlled their own fate in a way, but the Pelicans, they just wanted it more, and they took it. So the Spurs fall 122-98 in the season finale. Regular season's now over. Playoffs begin.
19 Bexar County schools now hope to improve their scores after failing last year's State of Texas assessments of academic readiness exams. And the Firefighter Association takes steps to amend San Antonio's charter and city manager's salary. I'm Chance Dorland with your Express Briefing for Thursday, April 12th. Subscribe to this and other free content at expressnews.com/podcasts. And get each day's top news and sports headlines delivered to your inbox at expressnews.com/newsletters. It's time once again for Texas students to take the State of Texas assessments of academic readiness exams to assess them in areas like reading, math, and science, as well as helping to determine a school's standing with state standards and accountability. Last year, 19 of 93 San Antonio Independent School District schools were given a failing grade in overall performance. To see which schools passed and which failed last year's STAR exams, visit expressnews.com and search STAAR. Earlier this week, national data showed Texas students fell to their all-time lowest ranking in reading and slipped closer to the national averages in math, and an across-the-board decline on the test commonly known as the nation's report card. Here's the AP's Jennifer King on what the data means for students across the country.
This year's results from the National Assessment of Education Progress show an achievement gap persists. The increase in 8th grade reading scores was due to improvement among higher-performing students. Among 4th graders, low-performing students did worse in math and reading, while higher-performing students stayed at the same level. Education Secretary Betsy DeVos says the country needs to do better. She says, alarmingly, the gap between the highest and the lowest-performing students is widening.
Wednesday, as members of the local fire union and their allies hand-delivered 100,000 signatures across 3 separate petitions calling for a November charter amendment election, Mayor Ron Nierenberg repeated his previous statements that the proposals will have devastating effects on San Antonio. Amendments include significantly lengthening the amount of time allowed for a referendum and reducing required signatures, capping the city manager's salary to 10 times the lowest paid full-time city employee, and forcing the city into binding arbitration over contract disputes with the fire union rather than going to court. The fire union and a firm it hired collected about 33,000 signatures for each of the 3 petitions, and state law requires at least 20,000 valid signatures of registered voters in order for a petition to be accepted. The local business community is expected to mount an opposition campaign to the charter amendments if they make the November ballot. And as the Spurs head into their 21st consecutive NBA playoffs, a loss during their final regular season game means a tough road ahead.
Hello, everyone. Here at the Smoothie King Center, Jabbar Young, Jeff McDonald for your Spurs Nation post-game wrap. And Jeff, the season is over. Before we move ahead to what's to come, listen, analyze this season right fast. I mean, this was a very interesting season, probably one of the most interesting in Greg Popovich's 21 years now as head coach. You know, it started off with the whole, LaMarcus Aldridge drama, which they got resolved. Then it went to Kawhi Leonard. Tony Parker made his debut. Then his injuries came. And yet this team still finds a way to make it to the playoffs. I think that's an accomplishment in itself, being as though everything that they had to go through.
Yeah, the 50-win streak ended. The streak of winning road records went down hard. Yeah. But they kept alive the playoff streak, and I think that's what you have to hang your hat on right now. And if you think about what the Spurs look like without Kawhi Leonard in the Western Conference Finals last year, if you'd have told me he's just going to be out all year, he's going to be there for 9 games, I would have thought this team probably was a lottery team. So the fact that they avoided the lottery for the 21st consecutive season, got into the playoffs, I think you have to give them a little credit for that. I think it's disappointing in a way. I know Papa said it a couple of times. They really thought if they got Kawhi back after after last season, they could build on that. Yeah. They could be a threat to take down anybody in the West, and they're really not without him. But all that said, getting the playoffs is something for this roster.
Absolutely. He graded right fast, and I'm giving it a B-. Obviously, the reason I say B- and maybe not B+, and maybe even C+ on when I think about it sometimes, but I'll say B- because there are certain teams that even without Kawhi, the Spurs should have beaten. They should have beat the Clippers. They should have beat the Lakers. They got swept by the Los Angeles Lakers. That can't happen, and if you beat those teams, you're not in this position in New Orleans on the last game of the season having to worry about your fate, because you probably would have already clinched. You would have had your seat together. So it's those losses that's disappointing. Getting swept by the Pacers. Those are the losses that I think they, kind of blew early in the season. And that's why I say B-. What's your grade?
Yeah, that's about right. And I think, you just need one or two more wins, and you're up there in third or fourth. And you think about, you mentioned a bunch of them, but there's also like a 17-point lead against the Pelicans at home in the second half, and then they blow it. And then it was the Lakers. Yes. They were up 15 in the second half, like 2 nights later, and blow it. That little stretch where they could not hold on to a fourth quarter lead, that's why they're going onto the road to start the playoffs against the defending champions and not hosting a playoff game this weekend.
Yeah. And here's where they stand at 7th in the West, having to face the Golden State Warriors, as you just mentioned. I can't believe it. The Sixers have more wins than the Spurs. This is incredible to me. Brett Brown has more wins than Greg Popovich, but that's all, out the window. Quick preview right fast. We know it's not going to be easy. Spurs fans seem to think that a series against Golden State without Steph Curry to start, because I think he may be coming back in this deeper in the series if he goes that far, that the Spurs may have an advantage. The one advantage that they may have is that LaMarcus Aldridge hit it on the head. He said, the pressure's on them. It's not on us. And we can come out and play free, kind of like the Kings did against the Spurs when they almost beat them. That's maybe the advantage. But what are you saying in this series right quick?
They're going to, we saw this series last year after Kawhi went out, and LaMarcus was asked to carry the offense, and Golden State said, we're not going to let you. We're going to send 2 and 3 guys at you, and you're going to have to, read that, and other guys are going to have to make shots, and the Spurs didn't have enough other guys making shots. They're going to have to figure out how to get some points in this series, because I assume that's how the Warriors are going to attack LaMarcus again in this series. Now, he's a different player this year, so I think maybe you have a chance there, but the Spurs just don't have enough firepower to beat really anybody in the Western Conference in a series. The only way they're going to beat teams is to play good enough defense to where you don't have to have as much firepower. But it's hard to see them being able to do that for 4 games against the Warriors, even without Steph.
Friday, Jabari Young will have a special episode of his weekly podcast, The Spurs Insider, to discuss the Spurs' chances in the playoffs. That and other free audio content is available online at expressnews.com/podcasts. And that's your daily San Antonio Express News briefing for Thursday, April 12th. Subscribe to this and other free content at expressnews.com/podcasts. I'm Chance Dorland.